Opposition Leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar has described the property tax as a tax that will pauperize citizens. Mrs. Persad-Bissessar said this tax will have many adverse effects. She was speaking at the first property tax forum at her constituency office in Siparia. Cherrylene Lewis has more.
A misleading, confusing and draconian tax. These were some of the sentiments expressed at the opposition leaders' forum on the property tax. Mrs. Persad-Bissessar, addressing constituents, described the property tax as the poverty tax, saying the poor man will suffer.
This is not a property tax, because property is an asset. In my view, this is a poverty tax. Poverty tax. And Mr. Ramban has already explained how this will impact down the road. You know why? Every single thing in this country, everything, every cost will go up.
Also speaking at the forum was former Central Bank Governor Leader Kamla, who said the tax is misleading. The fired governor told the gathering that there is no clause in the Property Tax Act which determines that citizens will be penalized for submitting their valuation forms late. In fact, he says this is stated in the Valuation of Land Act of 2009.
Nothing in this Property Tax Act says that you have to fill out a form. Nothing says what is the process with respect to what you've seen in the last week or so. And there's nothing here that says you will be penalized for wrong information. This is the one that says if you make a mistake on that form, deliberately or otherwise, you pay $500.
Going further, the UNC leader said that this tax could lead to rental increases.
If you're renting, what happening? Your landlord gets a property tax he has to pay. You think he's paying that on his own? What happens to your rent? Your rent goes up.
Citizens have until May 22nd to submit their valuation forms to the Board of Inland Revenue for the taxing process to begin. Cherrylene Lewis, CNews.
Meanwhile, Minister of Finance Colm Imbert has responded to the UNC statements that the property tax is misleading and will cause rental rates to increase. Minister Imbert said the request for documentation is only the first stage of the tax process, with the evaluation still to come before a single cent is charged to property owners. Here again is Cherrylene Lewis.
Minister of Finance Colm Imbert said the returned form, which has to be completed by May 22nd, is to assist with the valuation process for new properties that are on the system, and for those already on the system, the provision of receipts of proof of address and the existing assessment number. Minister Imbert was speaking at post-cabinet media briefing when he made the comment. He was refuting claims by Leader Kamla that the Property Tax Act of 2009 does not call for return forms.
The current initiative, which is requesting property owners to return a form, in other words, file a return of their property, giving details of the address, the purpose it is being used for, the number of rooms, and an estimate of the value, flows from the Valuation of Land Act.
And he responded to Leader Kamla, who said the imposition of a $500 late fee is unconstitutional. In fact, Mr. Imbert said this penalty has been in effect for the last 10 years.
Well, actually, that penalty has been in existence since April of 2010. If you go and read the Act, it says that property owners are required, this is the Valuation of Land Act, that these returns were required since April 2010, but that act was never enforced.
On Wednesday night, opposition leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar claimed the property tax will cause rental fees to increase, but according to Minister Imbert, it can also cause rental fees to decrease.
The landlord now has to declare what the rent is, so that if the landlord declares a rent that is not consistent with the actual rent you're paying, there'll be a problem. So you may actually find some rents might go down.
To this end, Minister Imbert said that the completion and submission of the return forms by May 22nd is only stage 1 in this process, which may take some time. Once this is done, the form will be sent to the evaluation department for evaluation. Notices will then be sent to property owners, informing them of the date for the first payment. Cherrylene Lewis, CNews.
Also adding its voice to the debate on property tax is the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association. The TTMA says it is gravely concerned by government's intention to introduce the property tax framework in its current manifestation and is appealing to government to reconsider implementing it. The TTMA says it recognizes the need for a property tax framework and appreciates that government is faced with a revenue shortfall. But it says the recent increases to income tax, business levy, green fund, and the increase in the price of diesel have all impacted on the rising cost of doing business in Trinidad and Tobago. Another onerous tax, the TTMA says, will put further undue burden on the business community. In addition, the TTMA does not support imposing the tax on plant and machinery.